Okay, so once again, good day everyone. Here we have another set of lessons to tackle as part of the midterm lessons in Assessment and Learning 1. Okay, so listen closely no because daghan-daghan dyan siya nga mga slides nga to ang i-tackle for this day. Now, we go first now with the 7 criteria in selecting a good performance task. So, this is a prelude of assessment in learning 2, which focuses more on authentic assessment, no, or performance-based assessment. So we have the following 7 criteria to consider. So listen closely, ha. Number 1, we have the authenticity, which is the quality, no, that the task can be encountered in real world. Therefore, authenticity, no, it's the degree, no, on how relatable a certain performance task is, no. So the more it is the more it is uh similar to what is done in the real world or in the normal or ordinary life of persons, so it is more authentic. Now, for number 2, we have the feasibility. So when we say feasibility, this is realistically implementable in terms of the cost, space, and time. Okay, so cost is one of the factors, no, because the more expensive a particular task is, or the more cost that it requires to uh, make the task possible, the more it is the lesser it is feasible. Okay, then also the space. Would it you have to ask yourself, no, if would you require more space for the performance task, or minimal space only is the requirement. Then as well as time. So you have to take into account, no, you do not only have to take into account the time for the actual performance, no, but you also have to make sure that there is enough time for preparation. Now, for example, no, you implemented ko kanang you had a performance task. So pabuhaton nimo sila og full-blown nga research from the first chapter down to the last chapter. So tapos ang deadline nato, no, nag-announce ka today, then the deadline is next week, no? So in terms of cost and space, there is no problem, no? Kay by group, ma-defray man ang cost sa pagbuhat og research. Space, yes, there is really no concern about space because all the students have to do, no, is to submit a complete research output. But in terms of time, so giving students only 1 week to prepare a full-blown research is quite a demanding and unrealistic task because research writing takes a lot of time, and what 1 week is certainly not enough. Okay, 1 week is certainly inadequate, no, for the students to prepare what is being asked of them. So feasibility, no, we have to consider most especially the feasibility. Walay walay kwenta imuhang activity if it has the good intention, if it bears good outcomes later on, if dili niya ma-address ning feasibility, no, in terms of cost, space, and time all together. Okay? Now for number 3, this is generalizability. So students' performance results are applicable to other comparable tasks. So uh, Muna siya, no, sa generalizability, ma-generalize ba ang performance result, no, sa other similar task. This is also one consideration. Now, for number 4, there is also the quality of fairness. So when we say fairness, this is fair regardless of social status and gender. Okay, so kanang kuano in performance task, we always have to take into account no the kuano fairness. So can all the students with different social status do the task equally? Something ana good siya. And in terms of gender, so can all the genders participate in the performance task that you have given? So ana siya no, your performance task as much as possible, it should be fair to everyone, to give everyone equal opportunities to participate. Now, for number 5, teachability. So, is it possible to teach ba? So, kaya ba siya itudlo ang kanang kuan? Something about a kuano performance task. Okay? Kaya ba siya itudlo according sa level sa students or dili pa nila makaya o kanang learn? Okay? So, that is one factor, no? So, dapat kinahanglan ang i-perform sa mga bata, kabalo sila, kaya na siya itudlo. Then, number 6, multiple foci. When we say multiple foci, no, so it measures multiple domains or objectives. So we have the following domains, no, we have the mnemonic CAP or CAP. So C stands for cognitive, A stands for affective, and then P stands for psychomotor. So multiple foci. Foci is the plural form of the noun focus. Okay? Dili focuses ha ang dili focuses ang plural sa foci. Sa focus. It is foci. Okay? So multiple foci. Ang focuses, it is the singular form of the verb focus. Now for number 7, scoreability. This is easy to score. A good performance task is easy to score. So kung moingon ganita og scoreability class, so that is kanang dali ra siya i-score. So say for example no kanang multiple choice matching type, so dali ra kayo na siya nimo tan-awon kung tama ba na siya or mali. All you have to do no is to take a peek on your key answers. Tanaw kasi mong key answers and compare that one to what is written by the student as his answers. Kung pareha siya sa answer key, automatically tama. Pag different siya from the answer key, then automatically mali ang i-answer ni student. Then after checking no all the correct answers and wrong answers of that student, all the teacher has to do is to count the number of the correct answers and then assign na diretso og score. So walang kuskus balungos no, there is a scoreability. On the other hand, essays, kanang mga essays no or kato mga lisod-lisod na tasks, so they have low scoreability because they are not that easy to score. So dili siya pareha sa multiple choice no na igo na lang mo tan-aw sa answer key or sa key answers. Sa essay, since wala man jud tay kanang exact na key answer for that, because there could be multiple possible answers sa essay kay subjective man na sila nga type of test, the teacher will still have to spend a lot of time reading the outputs of all students before arriving to a decision on what score to assign based on the answer given by that student. Okay? So yan yung anak ka baba ang scoreability sa essay because lisod siya i-check. Lisod and at the same time dugay siya. Alright? So mo na siya ang mga kanang some of the limitations which I mentioned in the other video of the essay items. Gamay siya o scoreability. Now, naman ta sa 7 criteria in selecting a good performance task, it is time for us to proceed with the minor principles of assessment. So we only have 4 here listed. Number 1, we have the administrability. So this talks about the test that it is should be easy to administer such that the directions should clearly indicate how students should respond to the test or task items and how much item should he or she spend for each item or for the whole test. So administrability, this is the degree on how difficult or easy the test could be administered. So parehaan ng kuan kanang sa mga exams, kanang sa test questionnaire. So kuan na siya no, dali taas siya og degree sa administrability because all the teacher has to do is to give one copy to each student of the same test examination or test questionnaire. No? So, igora na niya ipang-apod-apod na dira. And then, sa test questionnaire, na dito ang mga directions, o anya, dapat pod ang mga directions clearly stated siya. So, kanang mga instructions na write false if the statement is correct, and then write true if it is otherwise. So, kanang mga ingana ng mga questions, ingana ng mga questions, ingana ng mga instructions that could really, what do you call this one, that could really affect the degree of administrability of a particular test or assessment. Okay, so dapat din know how much time should he or she spend for each item or for the whole test. So, normally ka ng mga traditional test, teacher-made test, pareha ng mga exams, ka ng mga multiple choice, taas yun na sila og mga degree of administrability. Number two, scorability. So, I already discussed this one, no? This is just similar with the previous one. The test should be easy to score such that directions for scoring are clear or points for each correct answer is or are specified. So, scorability no dapat dali siya i-score. So, another factor no which could add to the degree of scorability of a test is dapat butngan jud nimo ang kada test og point system. Kung essay naa siya criteria no with the corresponding points. Kung mga multiple choice, matching type ba na siya or short answer test or identification, kuan nga siya class, what you call this one, kanang kinahanglan butngan dyan na nimo sila how much points ang worth sa kada test. Kung tayo test 1 multiple choice, 1 point only, test 2 matching type, 2 points each, then test 3 identification, so 3 points each. So kinahanglan na ato siya no para nga dali ra ang pag-score or dali ra ang pag-decide no sa score sa kada item. So that is scorability. So napansin dyan ako na ano kanang sa una pa lang dyan kanang magpabuhat kog test questionnaire. This is one of the many things that the students forget no. Aside from kanang mga klaro gud na mga instructions good, klaro nga pagka-state sa instructions, they also have a problem no in specifying uh, the corresponding number of points that can be obtained from each item. So kana no gabi niya na siya no di makalimtan yun na siya most commonly sa mga students. Now, man nato ibutang sa man nato kadalasan ibutang ang point system. So ibutang nato ang point system after sa pag after immediately after sa pag-articulate sa instruction sa kada test item. Sa test 1, sa test 2, sa test 3. Okay, so that is for scorability. Now for number 3, interpretability. Test scores can be easily interpreted and described in terms of the specific tasks that student can perform his or her relative position in a clearly defined group. So dali siya i-interpret no og dali through the particular test kanang test scores na gihatag sa particular test ma-determine nato no kung aha ang standing sa students in relation no sa position sa clearly defined group. So kung tahay sa section sa BSED Field 3A, makita nato sa test score no kung aha nagtindog or aha nadapit si student A compared to the rest of the students in that same section. Okay, so that is interpretability no. Makita nato if the particular student ba is lagging behind from his classmates or di kaya he is excelling among all the students in that same section. So, based on the test scores that we get from the test, kung taas siya interpretability, it makes it possible to easily interpret the overall performance of the student based on the test scores. So, ana lang na. Now, for number 4, economy, the test should be given in a cheapest way in terms of time and efforts spent for administration of the test, and answer sheets must be provided so the test can be given from time to time. So when we say economy, this is the cheapest way possible, no? So, unsa man ang mga currency na relevant to this quality na sa minor principle. So, cheapest way in terms of time, so dali ra ba siya mahuman, and efforts. So, gamay ra ba ang effort natong i-exert to make the assessment task possible? Now, mapansin nato class no sa una sa katong way back no when I was still a pharmacy student rather, uh, kuano sa una pa jud daw sa amo ang licensure exam sa pharmacy, duha jud na siya ka legs or duha jud na siya ka duha jud na siya ka parts. Part 1 is the theoretical part. So that is the normal part sa licensure exam, no? The students will sit for several hours to answer multiple choice questions. So that is the theoretical part. And the second one is the practical part. Okay? Practical part meaning mag dito mismo i-demonstrate ni student kung unsa iyang nahibal-an so far about pharmacy, about chemistry, about botany, about pharmacology, for example. So mag-demonstrate sila experimentation sa mga laboratories. So sa una, that is highly possible. That is because pharmacy no as a profession, the population of kanang pharmacy students are quite scarce, is quite scarce, no, scarce, dahil scarce, sorry. So it's quite scarce or it's quite few in terms of number. Now, karon class na nagkadaghan naman ang mga estudyante, mga college students, and the field of pharmacy is of no exception. So, dili na nato na siya kaya no na aside from the theoretical part no, the preparations and logistics behind that. So, aside from those things no, kinahanglan pa jud nato mag performance task, no? So, performance assessment as part of the licensure exam. So, the going numbers of the pharmacy students kanang render no the implementation of performance task in licensure exams as kuano highly difficult now. Nga no, because performance tasks, unlike sa mga traditional assessment no, like kanang multiple choice, matching type, identification, performance tasks takes a lot of time and effort to finish. No? So, imagine no, you will have kanang 100 test takers lang, na kay 100 test takers. Ang isa ana i-test nimo na siya probably approximately 30 minutes. So imagine the time spent just to accumulate all 100 100 students. Then consider also that there are only few testing centers no or laboratories to accommodate the implementation of performance task as part of licensure exams. Gamay lang kabuok ang mga testing centers and gamay lang pod kabuok ang mga volunteers for licensure examinations. Okay? So, nga na siya kakuan class, no? That is how it is kuan, no? That is how it is, what do you call this one? That is how it is kanang dili kay siya economical ang performance task in terms of time and efforts pag daghan na og students na i-test. So, as much as possible, no, if pwede ra siya class, pwede ra kaayo siya, dili ma-compromise ang quality sa assessment by only implementing or employing traditional assessment katong mga akong giingon gani itong mga multiple choice, matching type. So, kato sila, so mas maayo para nga dili na ta ano, para dili na ta maglisod-lisod pa sa pagbuhat og performance task. However, if performance task is the only best option for a particular topic, or kung gamay lang ang imong students, then pwede ra kaayo. Wala dyan na siya problema dyan. So, economy is another issue, no, or another concern that you have to address before implementing a particular assessment task. Okay? So, napoday answer sheets. So, now, mao na to siya class, no, tong mga minor principles of assessment. So, you have to na lang, no, familiarize those things na lang. Now, nanata diri sa mathematics na pod na part sa assessment in learning. So, we also have to learn, no, the measures of central tendency in variability. So, I know, no, na you have already undergone this one, some of the entries here sa inyong senior high school or even sa junior high school. But this is just a review, no, and dili na ta mo dig deeper sa math part sa mga measures of central tendency and variability. We will only pick the important things, no, or key details that you have to master in relation to assessment in learning one. So dili na nato siya makover tanan-tanan. Kato lang mga importante na buta. Okay, so it is regarded as a single value that is used to identify the center of the data. So when we are talking about centeredness, nadya ni siya diri sa measures of central tendency, and then it is taught as the typical value in the set of scores, and it tends to lie within the center if it is arranged from highest to lowest and vice versa. Okay? So, measures of central tendency, no, that is the centeredness of the data. So, aha ang tunga-tunga sa data. So, we will know more about this, no? Explain nato na siya. Now, so natay duha ka measures in fact. So, the first one, no, I mentioned earlier, that is the measures of central tendency, mo ni sila. And then we also have the measures of variability. Pag moingon ganitag measures of central tendency, so this only describes the representative value of a set of data. Of a set of data ni siya, ha. Dali lang, ako na siyang i-edit. Of a set of data. So, unsa ang representative na value, no, sa set of data or the centeredness kumbaga. Now, sa measures of variability, we are describing the degree of spread or dispersion of a set of data. So, variability, no, it only talks about unsa ka katag ang mga scores, kung katag ba ang scores, there is kanang high degree of variability among the scores sa usa ka test, or tapok kanang nagtapok lang, no, sa nagtapok lang sa duol ang mga scores sa students. We're only talking about the degree of spread or dispersion sa mga scores within a set of data. So that is the concern of the measures of variability. So measures of central tendency, we have the following. No? We have the mean, the median, and the mode. And for the measures of variability, familiar naman magpun-ani nila, we have the standard deviation, the quartile deviation, and the range. Now, we in the first column we have the following assumptions to consider. So the first pair of assumptions class is when the frequency distribution is regular or symmetrical, so kung normal distribution ang data, and it is usually used when data are numeric in value, so interval ba siya or ratio, ang ato ang gamiton na central tendency for this one is the mean, no, or the arithmetic average. So katong arithmetic average, no, mean mao ni siya ang mao ni siya ang most familiar sa ato at this point, kaning mean, no. Then kung measure of variability ato ang hisgutan, at this point, no, the best statistical tool to use is the standard deviation. Standard deviation is the root mean square of the deviations from the mean. So that is the technical definition, no, for standard deviation. So, pero ang standard deviation, ang kung ano po niya is the degree of spread or dispersion of the data. Mora na makita nato na siya, no, sa another tool na siya to see the degree of spread or dispersion of the data. There is a standard deviation. Now, for the second pair of assumption, nata dere, no, when the frequency distribution is irregular or skewed, so kung dili siya normal distribution, and then usually used when the data is in ordinal value. Okay, so kung naka first, second, third ang value, the appropriate measure for central tendency is the median or the middle score in a group. So unsa ang pinakatunga na score sa kanang group of scores. So remember ha kaning mga assumptions, so kung unsa ang appropriate na measure of central tendency and measure of variability for that. Now, if we are talking about with respect to measures of variability, we have the quartile deviation. So quartile deviation, no, this is the average deviation of the first and third quartiles from the median. So kuan na kayo siya, no, aning sa quartile deviation, very what do you call this one, very complex na ang solution ani niya. And since dili man pud kayo nako siya makita sa board exams, so wala na lang po na ako siya gi-appeal dire sa atong discussion. And don't worry, we will not dwell anymore, no, with the solving part. All we have to do now is to know or is to teach you how to interpret basically interpret, no, the results aning mga measures of central tendency and the measures of variability. Now, for the third pair of assumption, we have when the distribution of scores is normal and quick answer is needed or usually used when the data is nominal. So, ato ang gamiton dire is the mode. Okay? So, mode. So, dapat naka-normal distribution siya o kung gusto nimo dali nga reporting sa scores, mode atong gamiton as central tendency. So, mode is just the most frequent score na ni manifest, no, or ni appear sa set of scores. Okay? So, sa mga pinaka-common dira, mauna siyang ato ang considered as the mode of that set of score. Kung measure of variability na po tayo range. So range, no, is just the difference between the highest and the lowest score in the distribution. So that is the measure of variability. So now to discuss in depth the measures of central tendency, mo ni siya, no? Again, the mean, the arithmetic average. So, kaning arithmetic average or mean, so kabalo naman siguro ta mag-solve ani, no? So, kung dili na nako siya i-discuss ang solving part dere, but if still dili mo unfamiliar sa mean, so pwede nyo siya i-search sa YouTube na lang. Now, ang mean, dili siya pwede gamiton pag naay mga extreme scores. It is quite unstable, no, if there are extreme scores in the set of scores or in the set of data. Okay? So what are those extreme scores natong ginaingon? So katong mga highest or katong mga lowest scores, those are what we call extreme scores. For example, total of 50 items na ay nakascore og 1 or 2 lang out of 50 items. So that is a low extreme score. Tapos kung na highest scores like 50 over 50 or 49, 48 over 50 ba na siya, those are also highly extreme scores. So kung naa na siya yung mga extreme na mga scores or mao ba na siyang ginatawag nila sa statistics na outliers. So dili jud siya stable ang mean gamiton in that regard. Kung naay mga extreme scores unsa dapat ato ang gamiton? Ang atong gamiton na measure of central tendency is the median. So median no is the center of a set of scores. So kung naay mga extreme scores, median jud ang pinaka-ideal for that. Kay mao siya ang pinaka-stable. So dili siya matarog ang median no regardless if naay mga extreme scores. Makita ra na siya nato later. Now for the third one, we have the mode. Ang mode no is only about the most frequently occurring score in a given set of data. So unsa ang nagbalik-balik dira sa set of data, mao na siya ang ato ang ginatawag nga mode. So una ta sa mean. So mean no only refers to the arithmetic average, and this is used when the data are interval or in ratio level. So please ko familiarize this one no kay basin manggawas yun ni sila. So mean is used when the frequency distribution is regular, symmetrical, or normal. So kung normal distribution ang data, mao jud siyang pinaka-ideal na gamiton. The downside of mean is that this is easily affected by extreme scores. So, ang mean no gabi siya dali kayo siya maapektuhan kung naay mga extreme scores. Kung tahay sa set of data nagtapok lang sa tunga-tunga or sa average, sa tunga-tunga ang mga scores. Pero kung naa na siya extreme score, dili nato na siya ma-represent properly sa mean. Kay naa may extreme scores, dali na kayo siya maapektuhan ang mean. So, dili siya ideal ang mean, no? Basta na extreme scores. So, now for number 5, very easy to compute. Very basic siya. So, all you have to do, no, is to total katong tanang mga scores, no? I-total nimo tanang scores and then divide nimo siya sa number of the scores being totaled. Ana lang. And then you get the mean or the arithmetic average. Now, for another quality of mean, it also measures stability. And for number 7, it is also used to compute other measures such as standard deviation, coefficient of variation, skewness, and z-score. So ang mean no, daghan siya og gamit sa solving sa mga other measures like atong ako ang gi-mention earlier. So that is for the mean. And kano sa tamo gamit og mean class, we have 3 signals no on when do we use the mean. So first one is when it is desired to give each score equal weight in determining the central tendency. And for number 2, when it is desired to find the measure of central tendency which is the highest reliability. And for the number 3, when it is desired to compute the standard deviation and the coefficient of correlation later on. So kung kaninga mga reasons ang ato ang grounds to look for a measure of central tendency, then ang ato ang gamiton certainly is ang mean. Ani o give each score equal weight, pasabot lang ana no is kana equal lang tanan og weight ang mga scores. So kanang equal lang siya og kanang kabugaton. Now, so human naman ta sa mean, so di na nako equal no i-present ang solving part dito sa mean no. Okay, kabalo naman mo ana, I presume. Now, for the second measure of central tendency, we have the median. So, median refers to the centermost scores when the scores in the distribution are arranged according to magnitude from highest to lowest score or from lowest to highest score. So, sa median, sa pag-solve sa median, you really have to look no, for the centermost score. Therefore, in order to achieve that, you have to arrange muna the data no, or the scores from the highest scores down to the lowest scores or vice versa. Okay? Now, for number two, this is used when the middlemost score is desired. So, moto siya, no? Median, middlemost, centermost. Now, for number three, used when the data are in ordinal level of measurement. So, katong ordinal numbers, no? Na first, second, third, etc., etc. Now, for number four, used when the frequency distribution or is irregular or skewed. So, dili siya naka-normal distribution, no? So, could be daghan ang mga high scores or di kaya daghan ang mga low scores. Moto siya ang mga skewed na mga scores, no? So, kung ingana ang frequency distribution sa data, ato ang gamiton ana, of course, is the median. And number five, this is used when there are extreme scores. Like what I said earlier, no, kung dagag extreme scores, dili mean ang ato ang gamiton, kung dili median. Okay? So this reminds me no sa katong usa ka journal article sa research na nag-argue no nga ngano ang mga colleges daw and universities they used mean as kuano they used mean no sa mga quantitative research kanang mga quantitative correlational research, mga one variable study or descriptive research, ngano daw mean ang kadalasan ginagamit, where in fact by the virtue of the law of statistics, pag daghan ganig extreme score sa data, sama anang mga survey no sa mga quantitative researchers nato, dapat daw dili mean ang gamiton kun dili median. And naadyo to siya isa ka PDF or article summarizing the arguments no why median should be the most ideal measure to utilize instead of mean sa mga sa mga quantitative researches. That is why no this also reminds me sa research culture nato sa ato ang silingan Davao de Oro State College, ilang mga researches dito class wala na siya nakamin. Dili pareha sa inyong senior high no na mean ang inyong gamiton sa quantitative research. Dito sa DDOSC nag-start na sila dito nga median na ang ilahang gamiton as their measure. Median na ang ilahang ginagamit, dili na sila mag-mean. Tungod daw lagi kay na ay mga extreme scores yan. I find that also I also find that as something that makes sense. 'Di ba? Kay naman jay extreme scores ng mean. Like 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. Naaman jay mo answer dira og 1 haros or 5 haros. Okay? So kung dagag mga extreme scores, tendency of that is unstable ang mean to represent no the to give representation sa totality sa data or totality sa kanang responses sa mga students within the given population. So mo to no nagamit-gamit sila og median and kita diri sa KCAST even sa even sa UIC or di kaya sa St. Mary's College, mean gyapon na to ang gamit. And magulat lang siguro tanong nga ma-realize pod sa na median pod di ay. Okay? Now for number 6, not affected by extreme scores because it is a positional measure. Alright? So, di siya magsaligno sa di siya magsaligno sa tanang di pareha sa mean ba na kinahanglan i-take into account tanang scores. Okay? I-take into account tanang scores no sa equation. Sa median, dili because dili naman kinahanglan ang tanang scores to compute the median. Tan-awon lang nato tong mga tunga-tunga na mga scores and from that we identify no or in other cases we compute for the median kay positional measurement siya. The position that we are trying to identify here is the middle or the center of the data. And number 7 may not be an actual observation in the data set. Okay? So, mo na siya no ang mga kuano qualities sa atong median, and what are the following kuano reasons to use median? Number 1, when a quick and easily computed measure of central tendency is desired. So, kung gusto nimo pinaspasay o dali ra i-compute, so pwede ni siya ang median. Number 2, when there are extreme scores such as very few high scores or a few low scores, which could affect the mean disproportionately. So, mo to siya kung giingon last time no na gamay lang siya ang high scores or low scores. Then the other scores nagtapok siya together, wala siya nagkatag. So, kana siya na case or instances no, dili na siya pwede gamitan og mean. Kay mabira man siya sa high o low score ang mean. Okay? Mabira siya sa highest o lowest scores. Now, sa median, wala na siya pakialam kung naay highest or lowest score. Pangitaon lang nimo sa data kung ahatong tunga-tunga or the centermost part sa data. Mo na siya na median is the most ideal measure of central tendency in this case. Now, how to find the median? The first step is to arrange first the scores from highest to lowest. So, mo ni siya ang katong kuano example sa data. Then, ato siyang gi-sequence no from lowest to highest. Then afterwards, we find the middle number. Kung isa lang na siya kabuok ang middle number, automatically that is considered as the median. However, in this case, no, duha ang middle na mga numbers, so we still have to compute or solve for the median. So, saan na to siya pag-solve? All we have to do no is to add the two middle numbers or mga numbers nga naa sa tunga, i-add na tong duha, and then i-divide nato into 2. So, therefore, the median no, for this given set of data is 14.5. Mo ni siya ang ato ang considered as the median. So, dali ra siya class no, ang median. Now, for number 3, we also have the mode, which refers to the score or scores that occurs most frequently in the score distribution. This is used when the data are in nominal level of measurement. And number 3, this is used when quick answer is needed. Kung dali-dali ang katuang ko ano, reporting sa scores, tanawon lang nato ang sa tong most frequently occurring na score. Then for number 4, this is used when the score distribution is normal. So normal distribution gyapon ta. Pag normal distribution, it could be mean or mode. Pero pag kanang skewed ang distribution or irregular siya by nature, atong gamiton again is median. For number 5, this can be used sa quantitative and qualitative data. Number 6 may not be unique. And for number 7, not affected by extreme values. So pareha siya sa median in that regard na di siya affected sa extreme values because wala siya pakialam kung sa ang highest ug lowest scores. Pero kung sa mean, birahon dyan na siya ang highest ug lowest score. No, so therefore mode and median are similar in terms no of the fact that they are both unaffected by extreme values or extreme scores. And for number 8, there are times no na walay mode ang score set or ang set of data. Now, what are the types of mode that we have? So we have the unimodal, no, or this is a score distribution that consists of only one mode. And for number 2, bimodal, a score distribution that consists of two modes. Then for trimodal, a score distribution that consists of three modes. And kung trimodal siya, it is also considered as multimodal. This is a score distribution that consists of more than two modes. So now, kung saan man ta mo gamit og mode class, it is used when it is desired to find the score that occurs most often. So kung ana lang imong purpose, you use the measure of central tendency na mode. Now for number 2, when it is desired to find the measure of central tendency that has greatest concentration. Kung greatest concentration, mode automatically atong gamiton. Now, how do we find the mode? So we still use the same given set of data, no? Then all we have to do now is to arrange na po the score from highest to lowest. And then after that, we look for the repeating or the most occurring number sa set of data. In this case, 12 man ang ikaduka na nigula or nigawas. Therefore, 12 is the only mode of the given set of data. So, kung isa lang man ka mode ang nigawas, which is 12, this is considered as unimodal. Okay? Now, sir, what if duha pod ka 15? Kung tayo di ni 16 ha, 15 ang nigawas. So, therefore, dili na siya unimodal. The modes there are now 12 and 15. Then, dili na siya unimodal because duha man ka modes ang ni-emerge sa set of data. That is now what we call bimodal. Alright? So, trimodal, tulo ka buok. Okay, so mo na siya no sa kuano unimodal, bimodal, trimodal. Pag more than 3, pwede na siya tawagon as multimodal. So I guess that's all no for the measures of central tendency. Ambak na punta diri sa measures of variability. So sa measures of variability, again, we are just talking about the spreadness of the scores. Kung gabi ba ang kakatag no or nagkandaiya ba ang scores sa isa ka given set of data, nagkandaiya ba siya or nagtapok lang siya sa usa ka posisyon ang mga scores. So what are the measures of variability that we will discuss here? So range, ato na siyang i-discuss dire, quartile deviation, dili na nato siya i-discuss but we will mention it here regardless. Then, for number 3, standard deviation. So, ato po na siyang i-mention dire. So, first, the range. This is the difference between the highest score and the lowest score. So, difference lang, no? I-minus lang ni mong highest score from the lowest score. And, dili pod siya gamiton kung naay extreme scores. Kay unstable siya. Mao na ang tendency niya. Mahimo siyang unstable. Pag naay highest scorer o lowest scorer. Or kanang mga ginatawag nato ng mga outliers. Now, for number 2, this is just the difference no between the third quartile and the first quartile. So if the item states na unsa man daw ang difference between the third quartile and the first quartile, ang answer ana is standard deviation. No, quartile deviation rather. Now, on the other hand, we have the standard deviation, which is the most stable measure of variability. Kung mangita gani ang item unsa ang most stable na variability measure, that is the standard deviation. Now, to find the range, all you have to do is to again arrange first the scores from highest to lowest. So now, all you have to do then is to find the highest and lowest number in the given set of data. Then afterwards, use the formula for range. Range is equals to highest score minus lowest score. Now, based from the given set of data, we identified that the highest score is 24 and then the lowest score is 10. So, deduct the two na lang together, 24 minus 10, then that is equals to 14. So, therefore, the range for the given set of data is 14. Now, how do we interpret range? So, range class, we interpret it in two ways, no? So, kung makita nato, when we see a large range, this means that scores are dispersed, scattered, spread apart, far from each other, and scores are more varied. Mo lang na siya ang interpretation, no? When we get a large range from the given set of data. Now, kung small range siya, pasabot lang ana, scores are closer, clustered, homogeneous scores. Scores are less varied. Okay, pasabot ana, dugol ang mga scores. Kung large range, katag ang mga scores. Ana lang siya ang pasabot ana between small range and large range. Now, next is the standard deviation. So, kung tayo ato ang kung ano set of data here is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So di na nato need na ikuano skip na nato forward ang solution for standard deviation. Go directly na ta sa pag-interpret sa standard deviation. So since this is a measure of variability, kung may mga tag large na standard deviation, makita na nato no, na scores are varied, dispersed, scattered, spread apart, far from each other, and scores are of variety, great variety. Pasabot ana there is diversity in the of the scores in the given set of data. That is why the result there is it has a large standard deviation. However, pag ang scores gani closer siya, pag ang scores gani small ang standard deviation, this means that scores are closer, clustered, homogeneous scores that are less varied. Okay? So makita nato dire class, tan-awan ninyo dire dugol ang mga scores towards one another. So mao na siya no sa range o sa standard deviation. Lahi lang ang solution nila. And for quartile deviation, ato lang to siyang skip for now. Okay? So mo to siya no again we have the following measures of the preceding measures of central tendency, the mean, median, and mode, and then the measures of variability, the range, the quartile deviation, and then the standard deviation. Now, hapit na tamahuman, we now have the skewness, no? So skewness. So we have three following skewness. We have the positive skew, negative skew, and then the normal distribution. Okay? So sa positive skew, imagine that kung ano natin ani na graph 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 20. Okay? So kung siya no 20 points ni siya na quiz, then mo ni siya ang mga scores sa students. So kung ingani ang ingani ang scores na makuha nato sa usa ka quiz, then it is the graphical representation for that is like this. Okay? So, ang tawag na to ani na graphical representation, this is what we call positive skew, or ang mga scores are called positively skewed scores. Now, sa positive skew, natay ginagamit na mnemonic no, to aid us in memorizing what is positive skew or all about. So, ang mnemonic na to dere is the letters PPR. Remember, PPR lang na siya. The first P stands for positive. Positive siya. Then the other P, the second P stands for poor performance. Positive, poor performance. And then the R stands for right skew. So makita na to ang skew. Mao na siya dire sa kuan, sa left, sa right rather. Sa right na skew. Alright? So mao na siya ang sa positive skew, PPR. P for positive, P for poor performance, and R for right skew. Now, more about positively skewed scores. It is just a distribution where the thin end tail of the graph goes to the right part of the curve. Okay, so mugamay siya dito sa right part sa curve. And this happens when most of the scores are below the mean. Pasabot ana ang tanang mga scores baba siya sa mean. All right? So now, it tells you only on poor performance of takers, but not the exact reasons why students did poorly in the said examination. So it only reveals to us that test takers had poor performance during the test, but there is no concrete explanation on what are the reasons behind it. So, but this does not limit us to what do you call this one, to infer what is the implication of the poor performance of the students. First one, we have here ineffective teaching method and instruction. So it could be no na kung daghan ang nangabagsak sa ka particular test, one factor is teacher factor. Pasabutan na dili ka how mo tudlo possibly, or mali ang teaching methods and way of instruction na imuhang napili. Mali ang strategies and techniques na imuhang i-apply. to teach the particular lesson. Now, the second one is students' unpreparedness. Pasabot ana gipa-surprise quiz nimo sila and then lisod kayo ang topic, then nag-surprise quiz ka. So, expectedly, with high likelihood, it will more likely lead to positively skewed scores. Then the third one is test items very difficult. So, it makes sense. Kung lisod kayo ang mga test items, dako jud ang tsansa na ma-positively skewed ang mga scores. The fourth one, not enough time to answer the test items. So, possibly no, possibly pod. On the other hand, na prepared sila, kabalo sila unsa ang lesson, kaso lang nahutdan sila og time. So, relatable kay ni siya no sa mathematics na we know the formula, no? We know the formula, we know the proper steps and ways on how to solve the problem, pero nahutdan ta sa oras because problem solving takes time. So, mo na siya ang mga possible reasons no for arriving at positively skewed scores. Now, on the other hand, we have the negative skew. So imagine na atay ka ng score sa quiz no, which is the highest score possible is 20 points. Now, kung i-graph na to ni siya na kuan scores, makita na to isa lang ang naka 1, isa lang pod ang naka 2, and then naay duha ka 18, naay duha ka 19, then naay isa ka perfect scorer. Pasabot ana ang bulog sa scores ni pabor siya dito sa mga high scores. Okay? So makita nato no na ang skew ganiha right ang skew, dere na sa left ang skew. All right? So now, sa negative skew, remember lang ang katong mnemonic na pod for negative skew, we have the NHL. Ganiha, PPR, positive poor performance, dere kay NHL na pod. So N stands for negative, H for high performance, and L for left skew. So mapansin nato no, ganiha positive siya pero poor performance. Dere negative but of high performance. So ana lang siya no, baliktad siya ang kanang dira na aspeto. Now, more about negatively skewed scores. So it is a distribution where the thin end line of the graph goes to the left part of the curve. This happens when most of the scores are above the mean, and it tells you only on good performance of takers, but not the reasons why students did well in the said examination. So what are the possible reasons for negatively skewed scores? One is that students are smart, okay? Second is enough time to finish the examination. Third is test items may be very easy. So kani siya dili ni siya maayo no kung very easy. Okay? Fourth is effective ang instruction even though lisod ang imuhang topic, but because you as a teacher you discussed properly and comprehensively your topic, therefore nagka negatively skewed scores na pag-abot sa test. Then the last one is students have prepared for the examination. So kung tanang students prior to the examination nahuman nila tanan og study tanang lessons or topics, so expectedly naadyo tay negatively skewed scores. So familiarize lang niha kanang mga reasons for scores. Now, after sa negatively skewed, no? So, we have the normal or symmetrical distribution. So, Spanish, special case ni siya. So, when we graph these scores, so 1, 2, 2, 10, 10, 10, 10, 18, 18, and 9. So, symmetrical siya. Mo na siya ang itsura sa symmetrical or normal distribution. So, yung ana na siya. Now, so more about normally distributed scores. It is a special kind of symmetric distribution, and it can be determined using the values of the mean and the standard deviation. So what are the properties of a normal distribution? So please familiarize lang ha. The curve has a single peak, meaning the distribution is unimodal. Pasabot ana, isa lang kabuok ang mode dere sa normal distribution. And it is also a bell-shaped curve. So kung mangutan ang item, unsa ang tawag anang bell-shaped curve na graph? that is what we call normal distribution. The third one, it is symmetrical to the mean. Symmetrical siya pag normal distribution. Asymmetrical siya pag tawagon nato na negative skew and positive skew. For the fourth one, the end tails of the curve can be extended indefinitely in both sides, and the shape of the curve will depend on the value of the mean and the standard deviation. So, mao ni siya class no ang itsura sa what you call this one sa standard normal distribution. So, mo ni siya no, 0, mo ni siya 1, negative 1 na standard deviation to the left, 1.5, 2 ka standard deviations, 2.5, 3 ka standard deviations to the left. Then, napot na dire 0.5, 1 standard deviation to the right, 2 standard deviation to the right, 3 ka standard deviation to the right, 4, and then onwards. So, mo na siya no, ang sa standard deviation. So, makita nato siya, no, symmetrical siya, pantay siya, left and right. Wala siya na hiba. Okay, and mao ni siya ang mga means, no? 19.1, 19.1, 15.0%. Ay, dili siya mean, percentage din siya rather. So now sa skewness, if we take a closer look no on the three figures all together, so makita nato na sa positive skew na ang kuano ang bulog sa scores dominated siya towards the left side. So, makita nato no na kung ang scores padulong siya sa left, pasabotan na low scores siya. Padulong ang left direction, ang left direction points us to the low scores. Whereas, on the opposite side, pag pa-right gani ang direction sa mga kuan, sa kadaghanon sa scores, sa bulog sa scores, so padulong siya dito sa high scores. Therefore, ang positive skew, ang bulog sa score na asa pikas sa left, o ang skew niya is nasa right, diri na side, kaning nasa cursor. So, muna ang tawag nato na positive skew. Then, sa negative skew, ang bulog sa scores na asa right, daghan kayo ang scores pa right, then ang skew na siya sa left. Alright? Now, sa symmetrical distribution class, okay, so now, for the normal distribution, pantay siya ang left and right. So, gamay lang ang nakakuan, gamay lang ang nakascore o lowest, gamay lang po ang nakascore o highest. Kadalasan, nagtapok tanan sa average. Okay, so now, remember, memorize, pag positively skewed ganing ang scores, ang mean, greater than dyan na siya sa median, and ang median, greater than dyan na siya sa mode. Kung balihon nato ang mode, less than siya sa median, and ang median, less than siya sa mean. Now, for negatively skewed scores, ang mean is less than the median, and the median, in turn, is less than the mode. And then the mode, on the other hand, kung baliktaron nato, is greater than the median, and the median, in turn, is greater than the mean. Now, sa normally distributed scores, wala tayong problema, no? Because the mean, the median, and the mode are all equals. Are all equal, rather. Okay? So, ana lang no, memorize. And then sa kurtosis, so, pangutanon lang ka ano, unsa ang naong sa unsa ang naong sa mesocurtic distribution, leptocurtic distribution, and platycurtic distribution. Pag leptocurtic gani, pasabot ana tanganang tapok or clustered kaayo ang scores together. Pasabot ana dugol ang mga scores. Then sa mesocurtic na distribution, tama-tama siya, dili kayo siya ing ana kadugol, dili pug kayo siya ing ana kalagyo. So that is how mesocurtic distribution is represented as to the graphical representations. Then platycurtic distribution, flat man siya, flat. So platycurtic distribution na. So pasabot ani, platycurtic distribution, katag kaayo or spread apart kaayo ang scores. So kung pakitaon ka graph nga flat ang kanang kuan, murag nay pagka-flat gamay ang graph, so ang tawag nato ana is platycurtic distribution. So wala na siyang important things no sa na ato ang i-recall or remember when we talk about katong kurtosis, skewness, katong minor principles sa assessment, measures of central tendency and variability, as well as the seven criteria for good performance tasks. So kato lang siguro no. So now officially the slide ends, and I hope everyone has learned something from after watching this video, and please look forward for one more video no in preparation for your midterm examinations. That's all for this day. Thank you everyone for listening, and God bless.